All right, welcome everybody to this edition of O365Eh. We're excited on this edition to have Vincent Biret from Microsoft, the Azure Foundry AI Developer Experience Team, join us to talk all about Microsoft Azure Foundry. So Vincent, welcome, and we had you on the show before, so maybe we'll keep the intros light, but why don't you just introduce your new role on the Azure Foundry AI team, then we can start talking about Foundry.
Sure. So thank you for having me again. I'm very excited. Since the last time we talked, I actually changed teams back in August, 4 months ago now. I am now on the Azure AI Foundry client experience team. So we build client SDKs and other tooling for people to consume Azure AI Foundry. We also own a few other infrastructure pieces for the services to be built itself, but our main public role is around client capabilities and SDKs and whatnot.
That's great. And I'll kick things off. I used to use Azure OpenAI in the Azure portal to do things like simple chatbots, build knowledge-based LLM applications. Has the majority of that functionality been rolled into the Azure Foundry AI experience?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think the landscape of all AI and smart services in Azure can be a little bit confusing right now, especially if you have experience with prior services. So historically speaking, we've had, I think, three major services. The oldest one in that space, the oldest one being Azure ML, so doing things like clustering, linear regressions, detecting patterns in images, very basic machine learning, training, evaluation, and using those in applications. That's still here, and you can still use that, of course. The other set of services we've had historically has been cognitive services, which was a set of purpose-built services by Microsoft to do things like speech transcription or other or translation or other very specific tasks like those. And again, those are also still available. More recently, we've had about a year or two ago, I want to say, we've had a new service show up, which is Azure OpenAI, and that's just taking OpenAI models and capabilities and putting it onto the Azure cloud and making it available to Azure customers. And now the latest one that's available is Azure AI Foundry. And you can think of Azure AI Foundry as most of what I've just said combined and under a common umbrella, plus a set of additional nice features to have when you do models and agent building and so many other things. It also brings you other things like cross vendors models, availability, and so on and so forth, right?
That makes sense. And last time I was in Azure OpenAI, of course, there's the Azure OpenAI Studio that you use to author all this stuff. And then last time I was in Azure AI Foundry, it was more geared to like model deployments and sort of like the DevOps side of an AI application. Is the studio part of it still in Azure OpenAI, and or is it moving to Foundry?
So the Foundry portal available at ai.azure.com is an evolution of the Azure OpenAI Studio. And so you'll find most of the capabilities you had in this portal, either really looking the same or in a new shape or form in the portal. And you'll find additional capabilities as well, things like model fine-tuning and evaluations, things like building agents and connecting them to data sources, which was not always available, or at least the set of data sources was a bit restrained before, and so many other things. I could go on and on and on and on, but you get the idea. Azure AI Foundry at ai.azure.com is really the place to get started, start prototyping, and then evolve from that to a full-blown production, a model, and agent with evaluations, fine-tuning, and data sources, and so many other things. And then from there, you can take that and take either the agents or the models you deployed and integrate them in your applications.
Makes sense. Habib, I think you have a question.
Yeah, so Vincent, I know you got some really cool demos that you want to show us, but before we get to that, I think maybe I'd like to ask, what would be the benefits of, running these AI workloads in Azure as opposed to like, OpenAI or other, LLMs and stuff like that?
Of course. I think one of the things we already mentioned is the ability to run models from multiple model vendors. There are over 10,000 models that are available on Azure AI Foundry. So not just OpenAI, but also Grok, Mistral, and so many others. Another advantage we've also kind of talked about is Azure AI Foundry brings additional capabilities. On top of having the models, you get also to tweak their content policies. You get to tweak their fine-tuning if you need to. You get to tweak which data sources they have access to in a compliant way. You get to evaluate all of that against data sets and a set of evaluations that you can configure and so on and so forth. And there are so many additional capabilities. All those capabilities also come with additional APIs that you can use in your application. And another thing that is important to consider is that it's in the Azure cloud and it runs as any other Azure service. What that means is you have access to the same networking capabilities and restrictions that you might want for any other service. Like, oh, I don't want public IPs to be able to connect to that model for whatever reason, right? Or you can do things like deployment in specific regions that are compliant with your legal constraints and they don't cross boundaries and the data doesn't go in a territory that it shouldn't go or anything like that. And the last aspect that a lot of people usually don't consider or fail to anticipate how much time it's going to take. A lot of companies already are using Azure, so they already have their finances set up to pay an Azure bill and to make sure you can use Azure services. Usually, approving a new vendor from a company's perspective can take a very long time. Whereas if you run on Azure, well, you might already have all of that set up, so the setup cost is negligible if there is any cost at all.
No, that makes total sense. I mean, I think from my perspective, I was also thinking, like you touched on it, right? Staying within the confines of your, M365 or Azure Boundary kind of thing, and, having the content sort of stay within there too. And then, I work with a lot of organizations that have like really regulated heavily, and going through the process of performing a security assessment for other vendors and stuff like that just takes like a long period of time, right? And back and forth and stuff like that with the vendor in order to get them approved. So that's a really good point in just stating like, hey, if you already have it, might as well, try and use it versus trying to go through another security assessment. So that being said, let's see what you got.
Yes, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know when you see it. Excellent. So I built this demonstration application. It's a front-end JavaScript application with a .NET backend. It's just for illustrative purposes. You could build any kind of application. It doesn't matter for what we're going to demonstrate. It just makes it easier to visualize. Some of you might already know it. In my spare time, I play Dungeons and Dragons with some friends. If you don't know Dungeons and Dragons, that's okay. It's a mix between a tabletop game and some role-playing or theater, if you want, right? It's somewhere between Monopoly and doing theater, essentially, right? If you don't know D&D. And as I'm getting older and have lots and lots of responsibilities, I cannot meet with my friends, every week or multiple times a week like we used to. More often than not, we meet every month or every other month. And more often than not, as we do so, we kind of forgot what we did last time, right? Because there is a progression. It's like a TV show, right? If you watch an episode every 2 months, you forgot what happened in the previous episode, right? So I built this application to solve for that problem where when we play, we can, put a device on the table and start recording just the audio and then upload it to that application. And it will do multiple things. It will do audio transcription, of course, to understand what's in the recording. Then from that, it will extract a characters list to understand who are the main characters and what they do. From that, it will extract an epic moment, so one important moment during the session where something epic happened. It will also generate, pictures for the characters and generate epic moment videos, all those things at once. Of course, The idea behind that is I can demonstrate lots of different capabilities when I demo that in a session. We might not cover all the use cases, but that's effectively what this application does. Before I move to the actual demonstration, I'm gonna start uploading some recordings and have it analyze all the content, because that can take a couple of minutes. So I want it to run in the background while we keep talking. So I'm gonna add a new campaign. So O365A here. I'm gonna add it like that. And as I have created this new campaign, I can upload some files. So let's upload those 3 here, and let's let it run in the background. And you can see it will run a couple of requests to my backend, which will in turn send requests to Azure AI Foundry as it uploads, transcribes, analyzes all the different things. Yeah, Michael.
When you're processing the audio files and such, how do you decide if you're going to use like cognitive services, or if you start to use like AI or audio AI type models?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Thank you. So for a number of tasks, you might have a similar question where there are already existing capabilities. For example, transcriptions. You already have transcription services in cognitive services, and you can do the exact same thing using an LLM and a model and so on, right? Those two set of things are built differently. If you look at cognitive services and transcription services historically, they effectively have a dictionary of sounds and a dictionary of words and some grammar rules, and they try to do the transcription based off that. And there will be limitations. For example, if in the same recording there are multiple languages, it might go completely off rails. If there is some very domain-specific language, because, I don't know, you're doing some industrial process or something like that, again, it might not have all the context here. So you might not get the best quality of transcription using these older technologies, let's put it this way. Whereas an LLM, again, it's a neural network. We've trained it on lots and lots and lots and lots of audio files, match that with a bunch of transcriptions, and it will do that through a neural network and a bunch of other things, right? And because of that, it's a bit more agile. It has a better quality and so on and so forth. The additional thing you can do on the model or on LLM is you can fine tune it to your domain-specific language or your domain-specific content and use that to get even better results as a result, right? Of course, there's also going to be a difference in price. So it really depends on your scenario. Like, it's a trade-off between quality and cost, essentially. But those are the key considerations you should keep in mind as you make those calls between, oh, should I use an LLM for that, or can I use a simpler, older approach to that to achieve the same task, essentially, right? But yeah, that was an excellent question. Thank you so much. Yes, Dino.
Yeah, just picking up on that. So is that actually RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, that you're talking about? Is that something you're demoing here? Like, when you upload these audio files, are you grounding them with some of the data?
So in this specific demo, no, because it takes a while to set up, and it's a quick demonstration. I don't want to. If I were to be doing a seminar on all AI capabilities over a couple of days, yes, I might show that. But in this specific case, it's the default out-of-the-shelf GPT Audio 1 model that's behind the scenes for the transcription aspect. Yes, Curtis?
So when we talk about using different models for different applications, obviously you want to measure their effectiveness. And I think you alluded to the fact that AI Foundry can do that. Yes. Can you just speak to what that looks like? I guess you just have the models that you want to test with registered against this application, run it, and then I guess AI Foundry can give you sort of an evaluation of its effectiveness.
Yes, thank you for the segue. Actually, it's an excellent segue to what I was about to show. So even before you evaluate that inside the application, you can evaluate that inside the portal. So you don't need to write any code to start evaluating your scenarios and cases and so on, and pick which model is better suited for which again, scenario or task. If you go to, so I'm showing right now, let me make it a little bit bigger. That's the Azure AI Foundry portal here at ai.azure.com. And one of the first things, one of the first places where you want to go is the model catalog here. Not only because it tells you, hey, here are all the different models that we have available. Like you'll see that there are tens of thousands of them that can do so many things, but it also allows you to have some comparison between the cost, effectiveness, the quality, and so on and so forth. So you can you can add filters here and search for models and start comparing them if you want to do so. For example, for the purpose of transcribing audio, is it better to use GPT audio or to use some other model from a competitor, right? So already from an evaluation perspective, you can see that you can already try to guess what is the best model for the task here. But then once you have selected a model and you want to either fine-tune it with your domain-specific content, as Gino asked about earlier, or you want just to deploy it and evaluate the default effectiveness of this model at that task, you also have, it's currently in preview, so beware, there are big dragons, but you have this evaluation capability here where you can say, all right, here are a set of test cases essentially, and here are the results I'm expecting, and you can test that against a vanilla model or a fine-tuned model and see how better or worse they perform depending on what you've done and so on and so forth. Again, I don't have anything set up for today to demonstrate that, but those are some of the capabilities that the Azure AI Foundry portal offers to you.
Yeah, that's cool. How's your processing the audio file going?
It's still going. It's painting the portraits of the heroes here as we're speaking. So once you've selected your models and whatnot, you will start. One of the first things you will want to do is use a playground, for example. Let's try the chat playground. And you will. So let me select deployment. There we go. Before I can start it. So if some of you know Microsoft Graph Explorer, this is exactly that, but for models on AI Foundry, essentially. So once you've deployed a model and configured it and so on and so forth, you can evaluate it manually here, for example. So if I say something like, way to murder a goblin, I might not get an answer to that question. What's the best way to murder of? Oh yeah, no, I already set up this model for us earlier. So by default, most models will have content filters that are set up for you that will protect users against self-harm, content that they should not have access to, and so many other aspects, right? And that might work for most cases, but in some cases that might not work for you because, again, for example, in a D&D situation, we kill a lot of bad creatures and it's part of the fun, and it's perfectly okay to have that kind of content in the application. So one of the things you can do to help with those things is, tweak the system prompt to give instructions to the model that will override anything the user says, and also change the content filters, which I have done previously here. And as you iterate through those phases, you can use the playground here to see what results you get and see if you actually get an answer or not, if the answer is satisfactory, or all those kind of things, right? That's an extended and prolonged answer to how do we evaluate the quality of the models, essentially.
Is there, sorry, Vincent, I just want to add to that.
Yes.
Is there like a default level of, I guess, tuning that comes with these so that, out of the box, you already have like a set of, I guess, controls that are put in place by Microsoft,
of course,
as opposed to fine tuning on top of that, right?
Yes. Oh, they shipped an update as we're recording this demonstration. Amazing. The joys of doing live demos. Let's see if it actually loads. Okay, so the page I'm trying to load here, and we'll see if it, okay, something went wrong. The joys of showing previews a couple of weeks before a big conference. But the idea is that All the models come pre-canned with content filters that are set by default for you. And if you want to be able to tweak that, you have access to that page because you're not Microsoft employees, so you have actually access to the version of a service that actually works, contrary to me. And you'll be able to change the settings and say, oh, I'm okay with self-harm or with harm of two other creatures, but I'm not okay with any self-harm or anything like that, and so on and so forth, to fit better your application scenario here.
Perfect. Yeah, I was just curious that if there's just out-of-the-box controls that basically showed up for you. That's great.
Yep. As you like, this is another way to see it. I'm sorry, the main page doesn't work today, but as you can see, the model that I've used in the playground here, the GPT-4o here, has a different filter than the other ones, than the default filters that are applied here. And so based on that, it will give you different answers essentially. And that leads me to talk about something else. Azure AI Foundry gives you this ability to deploy models. So you get to select the models you want, and more importantly, ignore the ones you don't want, and deploy them. And you can allocate resources, different throughput, and so on and so forth to make sure that you are in control of what runs, what kind of models, what kind of capabilities, how much of any model you consume. All of that is controlled through the deployment of the models and the deployment of the agents further down the road, essentially. So here you can see that I've deployed 4 different models. One is GPT-4o transcribe, that's for the audio transcription. One of them is GPT-4o, that's a general purpose model. One of them is GPT Image 1 for image generation, and Sora 1 for video generation, essentially. So far, so good. And so now if I click on any given deployment, it will give me information around what are the different URI you can use to connect to that model. Here's a bunch of templates if you want to have examples for the code and how you can talk to that model, and so on and so forth. And this is where I'm going to switch to my code really quickly. Let's look at this one, for example. One important great benefit about Azure AI Foundry is for all the basic OpenAI endpoints, OpenAI APIs, we have the exact same APIs that OpenAI provides. And so what that means is if you already have an application that is in production today and that talks to OpenAI, you just need to tweak the setup of your client, but then you can use the exact same client in the exact same code to talk to Azure AI Foundry. So the migration path is fairly easy here. And as you can see here, I'm using the chat client, the same exact chat client from that I would use for OpenAI, and I'm sending instructions to my model using the same exact SDK that I would use. So here, this is where the part where I'm extracting the list of characters that I have in my campaign, and so I am saying, hey, you are note taker assisting a group of players. Make sure you identify the different characters. And another thing you can do here is provide a JSON schema to say, by the way, I want you to reply to me with that JSON matching this schema. So later on with your application, you can parse that and you can actually, reason about that using your code and JSON parsing and whatnot. So, and all of those instructions will be in a system message to make sure that it overrides any potential message from the user. It is safe to give very specific instructions in here and to constrain and guide the model to do exactly what you want it to do. And then here I have 2 more messages that I'm sending. I'm telling the model, well, I'm sending you the transcript I've just told you about before. And this is the transcript that we've had from the audio model just before as we transcribe things. And as we do that, if I go to my Explorer here, you'll see that it generates a result like that, where I have the name of a character, I have a short description for them, and if I'm able to extract a level, we also have that, and we also have a race and cast of the different characters as well available here. And then because I have this JSON file and it abide by a specific schema, I can parse it with my application and do many things with that later on. Let me go back to the application to show you, sorry, wrong tab, the result. But as you can see, it's already made a bunch of progress here. It has identified a bunch of different characters. It has generated pictures for them as if it were a painter. And we have the introduction we just talked about here. Interestingly, did that twice. I'm not sure what I've done wrong, but yes, we have it twice, and it's still generating to find the epic moments and the videos. I'll pause here if you have any questions regarding the code, the application, how it works.
Just a quick one. I saw in AI Foundry, there's the monitoring tab. Of
Yes.
course, using LLMs, you always got to be mindful of, limits, usage, cost. As this is running, processing the audio files, can you actually see it live, the processing in AI Foundry?
Live, no. There's always a little lag of a couple of minutes. It's not like it's going to update live. But as you can see, I ran a dry run of this earlier this afternoon at 1 p.m. and it started climbing at 1:32 and so on. And now as we're recording live and I'm sending things live, it's also still climbing here, as you can see. And yeah, you will have lots of insights here around how many requests went through, how many tokens did we use, an input and an output, what's the latency, and all those things to help you tweak and get to the production quality you expect, essentially.
That's cool. Okay. All right. Any other questions from Dino, Michael, Habib? Well, Vincent, that was fantastic. I think we'll maybe end it there because it's a good sort of point in time. But I would love to have you back on to discuss fine tuning and some other aspects of AI Foundry. So hopefully you'll come back on and discuss that stuff with us.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you for having me this time, and thank you for all the questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Vincent.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.